Look,
everybody who knew anything about the Middle East said, well, Syria is going to be far more likely to sponsor terrorism.
And we had plenty of intel showing that which, by the way, the progressives also like to say, well, where were those weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Well,
Saddam shipped them over to Syria.
Yeah, we were saying at the time that they were going over to Syria, and you kept saying, and you being progressives kept saying, no, there's no proof of that. There's no proof of that.
I mean, just satellite photos
yeah.
Showing the trucks heading from Iraq over into Syria loaded with those weapons.
And the congressional reports on that actually came out about 10 years ago. But the mainstream media didn't want to put that out there because that would make them look like the fools that they were.
And let's face it.
For accusing George Bush of war crimes.
Well, let's face it, man. Those people don't listen to people like Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity who were saying it.
Well.
But because Chris Matthews didn't say it, then it just didn't happen.
But, we were also pretty consistent on, hey, maybe we need to think about this on Afghanistan. Even though the hijackers from September the 11th could easily be traced back to Afghanistan, even though Osama bin Laden was holed up in Afghanistan. We were saying, do we really want to go to war in a country that bankrupted the Soviet Union?
Even better than that, do we want to engage in a land war in Asia?
Well. Have we not learned anything? I mean, all of the people that make these decisions for us, these are supposed to be learned men and women. But it seems to me that if a couple of hicks from who knows where, Alabama, can get a grasp of history, you would think that some of these people that are there to legislate and tax us and keep us safe from harm from all enemies, foreign and domestic, you would think that those people would know that history, if not heeded, will repeat itself.
Well,
we had this discussion last week. This is the same, the temperature and the barometer is reading just about the same as it was in 1914. Casey, just, from your basic history knowledge, how long has there been war in the Middle East?
Well, that depends on how you trace back the beginning of the Middle East. I mean, that's your time. I mean, how many thousands of years do you want to go back?
Well, I think we can probably go back about 4 or 5 safely.
But and we've said before, and we've said this on the air, the current borders that exist in the Middle East, everybody wants to blame the U.S. for everything that goes wrong over there. But with the exception of that little piece that Israel carved out in the late 40s, all right, with that exception, all those borders that exist in the Middle East were actually drawn up by England and France after World War II.
My.
I know.
And that's just your basic? That's...
I know. Ouchie.
You're not going to be making any friends if you're going to keep injecting fact into all these conversations.
These countries, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Oman, all those, didn't exist as countries with borders. I mean, some of them did, but they had different borders.
But now the
Palestinians...
wait a minute. Now, you just wait just a minute. Now, the Palestinians insist that they have been Palestinians since time began. That land is rightfully theirs. It was their birthright, man. They are descendants. They are descendants of the great Philistines.
You know what history has to say about that?
Wah, wah, wah.
They lie.
Now, wait just a minute. Casey, that's not the politically correct answer
I know.
That is not how we're supposed to. That is not how we have an intelligent conversation. You don't use real words like lie.
I know. I'm just an old Alabama poopy head.
Stop calling things what they are. My point in all of this is that there has been war and conflict in the Middle East since one Middle Easterner looked around and went, "Hey, there's another Middle Easterner." I mean, our own personal heritage. It's not that we're picking on them. Casey and I are from Scots-Irish descent.
Yeah,
man, our people been fighting each other. Yeah, we can't even get along with each other. It's a miracle Casey and I can even do this show, which, by the way, we can't even do in the same room.
Yeah, because I don't like looking at you. I mean, just
well, Mama don't even like you. But that's all. Hey, people are not going to be They're not going to get along, and the United States is not going to solve all the problems. Every president that we've had practically,
at least since World War II.
Yeah, I was going to say at least since World War I, has tried to have some calming, soothing influence, tried to mold the world into a kinder, gentler planet. The United States, being the big boy, is going to just walk right into the Middle East and go, "Now look here, y'all quit that. Everybody going to get along, or we're going to start bombing y'all back to the Stone Ages."
But what has been the result of all that, Marty? Have they listened? Have they just quit it? Have they all of a sudden decided that peace, love, and puppies for everyone would reign?
I would say that every time it's been attempted, things got worse. And once again, the kettle is at a boiling point. You remember back during the quote-unquote Arab Spring, when things were going over there in Egypt, and Obama was more or less taking the side of the anti-Mubarak forces, and another word for that would be the Muslim Brotherhood. When he took the side of the Muslim Brotherhood, and we were saying then, he shouldn't even open his mouth. He should recall our ambassador and get that big mouth heifer out of there before she makes things worse and makes us look worse than we already are. Mubarak might be a tyrant. He might be a dictator, but he's the only thing standing in between the Christians and those Muslims with the rocks and bombs.
Well, and another thing, and I realize this may be a rabbit to chase, but why would somebody who campaigned against the supposed war on women, why would he support an organization that only refers to itself as a brotherhood, thus disenfranchising 50% of the population of the region?
Oh, yeah, and they have such a wonderful track record with their treatment of women. Wonderful track record. Why, in Pakistan, a young teenage girl that just wants to go to school to learn how to read can't do it without getting acid thrown in her face. Oh, man, they're a great bunch of guys.
Well, I mean,
but we were saying then,
do anything that they want to in the Middle East, except leave the house without having a male relative go
or
with
walk
them
side by side with a man,
or drive,
yeah. But we were saying then, he's going to come down on the wrong side of this. He's aligning himself with the wrong people because everybody knows that the Muslim Brotherhood has, they play patty fingers with the Al-Qaeda types.
Let's see, Al-Qaeda. Refresh my memory, man. Have we heard of them before?
Once or twice. And, Al-Qaeda, I think you might remember in more recent times, they came up in a little place called, what's the name of that place? Benghazi. And, there was that little Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Nasri, Al-Qaeda. There was that nice little chain there. Hezbollah. All of those guys were getting awfully chummy. And we were saying, you better watch it. You messed up and came down on the wrong side in Egypt. We don't like Gaddafi either. He's a moron. But you better watch whose side you're getting involved with, because it's Al-Qaeda types on the other side. They're the ones arming all these rebels. Man, don't give them no don't with the stingers. No. Uh-oh, y'all lost some stingers.
Yep.
Now we see coming back around to Syria. Here we are again saying, hey, man, pay attention. You're lining up with the wrong people.
And who are the right people?
We don't
to line
know.
Up with?
There is no right people over there, man.
Because, see, your only option over there, other than the Muslim Brotherhood / Al-Qaeda / Al-Nusra / Hamas / Hezbollah, your only other option over there is to get in bed with a dictator or two.
And, for every tyrant or for every piece of trash that you want to refer to, Assad as, for whatever you may say, like Mubarak, Bashar al-Assad has been the only thing keeping the Christians safe in Syria. No matter what he's doing, right? No matter what you may have thought of him, no matter how harsh he may have been, those Christians had still rather fled to Syria than live in their home countries like Iraq and Egypt and Iran and Saudi Arabia.
And look where it's got them
and
now.
Jordan, yeah. And just like
again,
in Egypt, when you remove that, just like in Egypt, what's happening to the Coptic Christians there in Egypt, Case?
They're dying by the numbers.
They had one of the churches there in Egypt, a Coptic Christian church.
Burnt.
It was burnt. Not just that. For the first time since 1603, they weren't able to have service. For the first time since 1603. What happened? The United States came down on the wrong side of things. That's what happened.
Yeah, 1603 was at least 20 years ago, right?
Yeah. Like Benghazi, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Now, look, here's what I think we should do, because, it's not enough just to rail on the administration, to rail on John Kerry and his quote-unquote nuanced foreign policy.
Oh, brother.
Without offering an alternative.
Okay.
This is the Casey alternative.
Oh, boy.
What do they call that? Instead of, we'll call it the Casey Doctrine.
The Casey. Okay. All right. We'll go with that. Shoot.
Put troops all around Syria.
Okay.
Tell them, if you're a Christian, come on out. We'll take you somewhere where Christians are safe.
Okay. All right. I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Okay. Evacuate them. And then get on Israel's border.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And say, okay, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon,
Jordan,
y'all go and do whatever you want to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Cross this line, and you're going to get it.
Man, you know what? I like your doctrine.
And I've got another one. That's an alternative.
You're giving them a choice?
Yes, I've got another option.
Oh, boy.
Take our troops, our airplanes, fly into Syria. If they send up an airplane, shoot it down, ruin the Assad's ability to make war. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Go find all these WMDs. Take them.
Uh-huh.
Take them out into the middle of the desert.
Detonate them?
Airdrop an incinerator. We know how to incinerate chemical weapons. We could send people from Alabama who safely incinerated the entire chemical weapons stockpile here in Anniston.
Uh-huh.
Take and drop an incinerator out in the middle of the desert somewhere, ring it with fortifications, and sit there and burn all of those WMDs up and let them do whatever else they want to each other.
For a redneck hick doctrine, that ain't too shabby. But it makes too much sense, so it'll never fly.
I know it won't.
But you're absolutely right. But you know what, though? The most important thing that needs to happen right now, the president needs to listen to his Congress. Because no matter what whatever the progressives want to say about George Bush, he had congressional approval.
He also